One crisp Tuesday morning at 6 a.m., Eugene Bud Kellerman stepped onto his porch with a mug of black coffee, expecting the familiar scent of pine and still water. Instead, a sharp, chemical burn hit his nostrils, raw bleach thick enough to sting his eyes and throat. His old pH meter, a brass beauty Margaret had given him for their anniversary back in 1987, screamed 11. At the moment he dipped it. The lake, his lake, the one his grandfather had carved a fishing dock into 4 generations ago, was glowing an unnatural electric blue. Hundreds of rainbow trout floated belly up, their silver scales glinting in the sunrise like scattered coins in a graveyard. This was the same dock where he and Margaret used to sit every morning for 23 years, hands clasped, watching mist rise and fish leap. She had fought lung cancer for 18 months when the doctors gave her 6. Even when the pain kept her from walking far, that dock had been their sanctuary. Her lavender perfume still lingered in his memory, mingling with the smell of Douglas fir needles. After she passed 3 years ago, Bud started taking disabled veterans out on the water for $50 a half day. Nothing fancy, just a way to share the peace he and Margaret had found here. It brought in maybe $300 a month when the fish were biting. It was never about the money. Now, standing in the chemical haze, Bud looked up toward the ridge. There she was, Veronica Sterling Cross, HOA president of Cedar Ridge Estates, smirking from the picture window of her mansion like she had finally broken him. She thought dumping enough pool shock to sterilize a municipal pool would force him to sell, so she could turn his lake into the centerpiece of her dreamed-up luxury spa resort. What she didn't know, what no one in the 52-house subdivision knew, was that this lake wasn't just a pretty view. It was the hidden source feeding every home's premium mountain spring water delivery service. The same water they paid $180 a month for came straight from Bud's property through a secret 4-inch intake pipe buried under blackberry bushes. Veronica had been stealing roughly 12,000 gallons a day for 15 years, running it through an industrial treatment setup hidden in the community center's basement, then billing residents through her paper-only company, Alpine Springs Water Delivery. Over 15 years, that added up to more than 65 million gallons stolen and roughly $7 million in fraudulent billing. By poisoning the source to stop Bud's little fishing guide service from drawing attention to the lake, she had just contaminated her own illegal supply chain. Bud didn't panic. 37 years running water treatment plants across Oregon had taught him how contamination travels, how systems fail, and how truth inevitably surfaces when water is involved. He slipped the pH meter back into his tackle box, Margaret's gift, now his talisman, and started collecting samples. 3 days later, a white Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife truck rolled up. Inspector Martinez looked uncomfortable delivering the complaint Veronica had filed. Unlicensed commercial fishing threatening local fish populations, a potential $5,000 fine, and a possible threat to Bud's disability benefits. Bud calmly handed over a folder Margaret had helped him organize years earlier. Recreational license, county small business permit, liability insurance. Everything was in order, more thorough than most operations Martinez had seen. The inspector left shaking his head, already sensing the complaint was harassment. Bud drove to the county records office next. In the dusty basement, he found the 1987 covenants for Cedar Ridge Estates. The HOA's authority extended only to developed properties. His land, inherited in 1962 as pre-existing agricultural use, was explicitly grandfathered and exempt. Veronica had zero legal power over his dock, his lake, or his fishing. With his last $3,000 in savings, he hired Sarah Monroe, a property rights attorney who smiled like she'd just been handed a winning lottery ticket when she saw the documents. "Slam dunk," she said. Meanwhile, Veronica escalated. False abatement orders arrived, claiming the lake was a mosquito-breeding public health hazard. $15,000 to remediate or the city would drain it and bill him. The inspector who delivered the citation, Bradley Hutchkins, wore a brand-new Rolex Submariner worth more than his annual salary. Bud asked pointed questions. Hutchkins turned red and left. At 3 a.m., one sleepless night, Bud remembered an old EPA contact, Jake Morrison. He called. Jake listened to the pH readings, the dead fish, the chlorine smell, and went quiet. That's a Clean Water Act violation, bud. Intentional dumping. Federal crime. Minimum $50 fine. I'm coming to take samples. Jake arrived with spectrometers and test kits far more advanced than Bud's vintage meter. The residue pointed to deliberate dumping of calcium hypochlorite, pool shock, right where the road nearest Veronica's house met the shoreline. Jake fast-tracked lab results and opened a formal EPA investigation. Then came the second attack. Another 50 trout dead, this time with ammonia burns from industrial algaseed. Bud was ready with camera and containers. Neighbor Dave Kowalski shared security footage. Veronica's white Tesla creeping toward the lake at 1:47 a.m., with jugs visible in the back seat, then again the next morning. Bud traced a thin black pipe from the lake edge, hidden until he cleared brush. 50 feet down, he uncovered a professional-grade intake manifold. Serial numbers led to Morrison Pump Company. The system had been installed in 2009 under permit to Cedar Ridge Estates Utilities Management, Veronica's HOA. Jake's ground-penetrating radar and flow meters confirmed it. 12,000 gallons per day, every day for 15 years straight to a hidden treatment plant in the community center basement. Sand filters, chlorinators, pressure tanks, all branded Alpine Springs Water Delivery, the same name on residents' bills. Bud called friendly neighbors. None could remember ever seeing a delivery truck. The math was brutal. 52 homes times $180 a month times 15 years equals roughly $1. 7 million siphoned, while Veronica skimming extra from the fake company. Channel 8 News picked up the story. Lisa Park interviewed residents, showed the intake pipe, the flow meter data, the security footage. Sunday night, the lead story aired. HOA president accused of running 15-year water theft scheme, poisoning private lake to cover it up. Veronica panicked. Early Sunday morning, she attacked the exposed intake pipe with a 20-pound sledgehammer. Dave's cameras caught every swing. She ruptured the line. Water erupted like a geyser, flooding downhill into the HOA's underground mechanical room. $40,000 of filtration equipment shorted and drowned in the very water it had been stealing. Cedar Ridge lost all water pressure. Residents suddenly had no premium delivery. Plumbing trucks lined the street. Insurance adjusters photographed the sabotage. Veronica claimed it was an accidental repair. No one believed her. Tuesday's emergency HOA meeting was packed. 52 families, 3 reporters, 2 undercover FBI agents. Veronica tried to spin a supply chain excuse. Residents stood up one after another. Tom Peterson pointed out the customer service number on the bills rang Veronica's personal cell. Mary Beth Santos asked why no one had ever seen a truck. Bud walked to the front, pH meter gleaming in his hand. He connected his phone to the projector. Footage played. The Tesla at 2 a.m. Chemical jugs, the sledgehammer rampage. He explained the pipe, the theft, the poisoning of their own drinking water. Then he opened Jake's flow control app and shut off the intake. Water pressure in the subdivision dropped to 0. The room erupted. Agent Kim stood, badge out. Veronica Sterling Cross, you're under arrest. Handcuffs clicked. Camera flashes popped. Veronica screamed about misunderstandings as they led her away. 3 months later, the settlement arrived. $850,000 from HOA insurance, plus legal fees and restoration funds. Veronica began 18 months in federal prison for wire fraud, mail fraud, utility theft, and Clean Water Act violations. Bradley Hutchkins got 3 years for bribery and forgery. The lake was restocked with trout. A new legitimate water agreement charged $45 per home per month. Real delivery, real transparency. Bud launched the Margaret Kellerman Memorial Fishing Program. Free Saturday mornings for disabled veterans. 12 regulars now. The old community center basement became an environmental education center teaching kids about water quality and conservation. Every morning, Bud still sits on the hand-carved dock with coffee and the brass pH meter. The readings are perfect, 7. 1. Crystal clear. Trout rise from mayflies in the late light. The chemical smell is long gone. Margaret always said water finds its level, and truth has the same property. Both have finally settled where they belong.